kind of how I got recording in progress. Um, First half of my career, I was in publishing, mainly print publishing. So travel magazine, books, book editing, design, all that sort of stuff. And then the second half of my career, I was working at two AmLaw 100 firms in Washington, D.C. So got really deep into all that sort of thing. Did work supporting a Brussels office in the EU. So it was sort of a lot of different experiences. The third half of my career, if we want to, use math, it was I really got interested in digital. I had been playing around with software programming and websites in the 80s and 90s. And so I've kind of done a deep dive into that. And that's why I find myself doing things like LinkedIn, social media, web development, and that sort of thing. So I'm going to share my screen and get going. So you'll see that three of the words in this title, visibility, expertise, and trust, are something that over time I've realized that if we focus on those things, I think there's a much higher probability of attorneys getting hired and growing their businesses. So what I want to do here is this is the agenda for today for this presentation. First, I'm going to go through an overview with what I call three concepts. And those concepts, what I'm trying to do is take us from a state of confusion to a state of clarity. Then I'm going to briefly talk about why LinkedIn, what is the case for LinkedIn, why should people be on it? And then I'm going to go to the heart of the presentation, which is three things. This is kind of the meat and potatoes, the more prosaic aspect. I'm going to go into some detail. Number one, how to improve and optimize your LinkedIn profile. Number two, sharing content. What is that all about and how can you do it? And number three, engagement, which is, I think, key to the social media world. And then finally, some thoughts about the unique opportunities I see for INBLF. Okay. One of the things I want to state here is that on a few occasions, you're going to see a QR code. This presentation, I will happily make it available to anybody so you can download it or I'll email it to you or anything like that. But I have recorded a few short videos that do a little deeper dive into some of the topics that I'm talking about. There's just no time. I don't want to take more of your time than is required. So if you would pull out your smartphones and open up your camera app, that way it's ready. So when you see a QR code, you can just pull up your phone, point it to the QR code, and then tap to open up that particular video. The videos are just 3, 4, 5 minutes long each, okay? So let's do this overview. I've got three concepts that I want to talk about. First, digital ecosystem. Second, something you may know as the marketing funnel. And third is with this VET diagram that I talk about really pretty much throughout the year. So the digital ecosystem is what I call reality. We may not want digital, whether it's social media, websites, and all that, to be reality. We may not agree with it, but the fact is it is, okay? If I go to Google Maps and see a store showing up, it says that they're open at 9 a.m. and I show up at 9:30, but they don't open till 11 a.m., I'm kind of angry, okay? Because the digital thing that they presented on Google Maps said that they were open at 9, okay? So I just want to kind of state that it's reality, but it's also confusing. And this is one of the ways I think of, I could call it the digital ecosystem. We could call it the internet. The original version of Star Trek that aired in the 60s, Mr. Spock used to play multi-level chess, okay? Now, we all know chess is a two-dimensional game, but this is a three-dimensional game. And I don't think anybody knows how to play this. I think maybe there are sets of these on sale on the internet. But this is kind of the world we're living in now. We have to deal with SEO, we have to deal with websites, we have to deal with social media, which kinds of social media, emails, algorithms, all that sort of thing. And a colleague of mine once said, not only is it multidimensional and confusing, the boards are actually changing. So when LinkedIn or Google changes their algorithm while we sleep, the board has changed. So it's a little frustrating and confusing. Another way I think about it is if I just throw some of the things that I work on or people in digital marketing work on into a word cloud, this is just a fraction of the things you have to think about. So what do you prioritize? Because you can't do it all. And I'm telling you now, I don't do it all. Okay. So I'm not asking everybody to sort of quote unquote do it all. Here is my diagram that explains the internet or the digital ecosystem. If you look on the right-hand side is a website, or it is all websites, or it is your website. I'm not going to go into detail there. It talks about the tech stack and forms of content on there. But what you do see is that a website is a foundation of the content, of the displaying of your expertise online. And then when you get into things like social media, when you get into phone calls, emails, those are distribution channels or networks, okay? And I would even say that having a coffee with a prospective client is the same thing, okay? And as you can see, LinkedIn is kind of in the center off to the left a little, is one little component of it. So that's what we're talking about, that one component. And it's not just a distribution channel. It's not just a broadcast channel. It's an interactive channel where we have conversations with people. Ideally, we have conversations, okay? Another way I seek clarity is with the marketing funnel. And if you've taken a marketing course, you've probably seen this. There are thousands of versions of the marketing funnel. I chose this one because it was simple and I like the colors, but it's pretty simple. The concept is this: out of all the possible people who could become your client, they are at the top of the funnel, which is very wide. And through a series of interactions, which are planned and not planned, you ultimately get some of them going down the funnel who become your client. Notice that when you get hired is not the bottom of the funnel. The bottom of the funnel is actually when you have clients who respect you so much that they refer you to other people. There's loyalty, there's advocacy, okay? That's actually the secret sauce because you actually have other people helping you do your work for you, okay? So this is something I would like you to keep in mind as I'm going through the nitty-gritty of LinkedIn and using LinkedIn. There's one more concept, and sometimes I call it the sweet spot. And those of you who've worked with me probably have seen this before, but basically it comes down to this. This is a theory. I've never seen it be disproved, okay? I'm open to people trying. But when you have three things happen, and that's visibility, expertise, and trust, the probability of getting hired goes way up. If you don't have all three, it gets harder to get hired. I'll give you an example. I could have expertise and a nice limited group of clients who trust me, okay? And I've got a business. I've got a practice. And that's fine, but I can't grow my business really until I increase my visibility. I think that especially with lawyers have a better time at building expertise and trust than visibility because not even just lawyers, all kinds of people will say, I hate marketing. I hate marketing myself. I don't want to put myself out there, that sort of thing. So part of this is the visibility area of this, but it's also all three. And as we go through the LinkedIn, you're going to see all of these three things play out. Now, a couple more minutes about LinkedIn itself. Okay. Let's say, excuse me. Let's say it's 1972 and somebody comes up to you and says, I could help you get 25,000 impressions, meaning sort of views of what you do, what your practice is like, what your business is like per year with just some investment of time, not $25,000. And if somebody came up to you in 1972 and said that, you'd say, well, gee, I would love that. And I know an attorney who simply through applying himself on LinkedIn got over 100,000 impressions. And that means like views of a profile of content and all that over the course of 1 year. Okay. And so that's one way to think about this. There's a huge installed base of LinkedIn. Of course, a smaller percentage are daily users, but 16% of a billion is pretty good, okay? The other thing that you see now, as opposed to say 10, 12 years ago, is you see more interaction, more engagement, more activity on it. The last thing I want to talk about on this slide is something called domain authority. A domain is your website domain, okay? So it could be like smithlawfirm.com. If somebody's Googling something and they see a page on say joesgarage.com and the exact content on amazon.com, chances are when somebody does a Google search, the Amazon page will rank higher because Amazon has such great domain authority. People trust it, people use it all the time. Here's an example. Earlier this week, I hadn't done this for a while. I Googled my name with the word marketing. And just as it has been in the past, my LinkedIn profile comes up before my own website and it comes before other websites that I'm related to. Okay. The point here is people will Google you even if you get a referral. Okay. So the question is, and if you have a LinkedIn profile, they're going to see that and they're going to click on that. The question is, what do they see when they click on that link? Okay. A couple other stats, and then we're going to get to the heart of this. Here are some statistics about social media use in general. And you can see while there's some rock stars, I'm a huge fan of YouTube. Facebook is sort of meh, as the term is today. LinkedIn, 30% of users, this is in the United States. This is nonpartisan, independent research by Pew Research. 30% of US adults use LinkedIn, okay? Here's one of the things that underlines that. The user base of LinkedIn tends to be of higher educational status or experience than most people. Okay. And I think that's very important for lawyers because you know who your clients are, you know who even your peers are who help you get clients. Okay. One more chart. This shows a number of social media. This is also from Pew Research, number of social media platforms. LinkedIn is right there in the middle. 30% of US adults use it. If you look farther down in the middle, though, you'll see that the age demographic, 30 to 64, LinkedIn outstrips TikTok. Okay, TikTok gets all the attention. TikTok, TikTok, TikTok. If you want to market on TikTok, go for it. Okay, but if you go farther down, you'll also see that the household income of LinkedIn users is higher, which tends to mean their salaries and their positions are higher. And then, of course, the college and university education statistic that was referred in the previous slide. So there's reasons for not just the numbers, but sort of the richness of the people who use LinkedIn. Okay. So now I'm going to talk about three things. Each of these is going to be its own section. The first is how to optimize your LinkedIn profile. Second, share content. And third is engagement. Okay. So with this one, let's go back to that Google search. I want you to imagine that people are doing this. Okay. I mean, if you've Googled other people, then it means they're Googling you, right? So think about that. Here is, and Miriam, I'm sorry I didn't get your permission for this, but I absolutely love Miriam's LinkedIn profile. I'm going to go through the basics of a LinkedIn profile from top to bottom. And you can see here there's a few elements at the top of a profile. First of all, get a nice profile photo. It just needs to be a square photo. The background image. There are a lot of people who have very good LinkedIn profiles, but fail to put in a background image. You know, Miriam bases her practice out of San Francisco, and this one image evokes so much, including having her logo there. Beneath her name, you'll see what is called the headline. And oftentimes you'll see people say, okay, their headline simply says partner at, XYZ law firm. That's fine. I don't have any problem with people listing their title, But we have to understand that when people are investigating and searching for information, it's all about them. It's not about the person whose LinkedIn profile it is. So it's important in this case that Merriam states very clearly the type of practices, type of law she practices, and not only litigation, but commercial litigation and bankruptcy litigation. Okay. What do you need to do this? Here are the stats. You need a square image, at least 400 by 400 pixels, and then the background image is this. Again, this will be available for you. You don't need to write this down. I can get it for you, or you can Google this this information. Okay. Let's go farther down the profile. If you start scrolling, you're going to see that that name and headline is really important. It is what's called a sticky header. LinkedIn has designed their website, and it is a website. It's a really fancy one, so that as you scroll down the page, your headline continues to appear at the top. So having that very focused language is ever present. But what I want to talk about here are two different sections. The About section is a section that's really, really important. It's like one of the first things people see. And it's actually quite lengthy. LinkedIn has expanded the amount of space that you can have to describe yourself if you click the See More link. What I request that you do, if you want to copy and paste from your website bio into here, that's completely fine, but please put it in first person. LinkedIn is each attorney's account. It is your license with LinkedIn to use it, and it should be personable because it's a way of engaging with people. Okay. I just don't think third person gets across the right approach. The featured section is something that as you start sharing content, you can do. And this is something I love in Larry Ebner's site because he's kind of a content powerhouse. I love what he does. And then he adds this so that people get a very quick idea, if they're going to do a Google search of him, of what he does. When you get into your experience and your educational status, please be sure that previous firms or government agencies or companies you've worked at, that you link those your profile to the LinkedIn pages for those places. So if you see a kind of a grayed out logo, you're not linked to the actual page of that place you used to work at. The other thing is to actually put in a little bit of tangible information. I've known Jim for a number of years. He's in the transportation planning field, and he's chosen to kind of state what his experience is by listing key projects. Okay. There is a network effect. Okay. Same thing is true for your education. I'll sometimes see people who have not connected with their university. Okay. And the reason to do this is not just to have pretty logos on your LinkedIn page. It's the network effect. So if you got a degree at the London School of Economics and you link your profile to their web page, their LinkedIn page, you will start to sort of be a part of that network, and vice versa. You'll appear in others. So we want to try to let what LinkedIn is doing behind the scenes at no cost to us take effect and have this sort of network effect. So here's an example of how you can find this. Like if I take the Georgetown University at the bottom there, if you just do a search on LinkedIn, say for Georgetown University, their page will pop up. Click on the page so that you're at it. And then if you just look at the URL, the slug is typically the last bracketed portion of a URL, and you'll see that is how you get to Georgetown University. So for example, if I wanted to tag them in a post, I would just type at Georgetown-University, and at some point their page will click up as a link and I can tag them. Okay. The same thing is true for INBLF. I'm going to state this later on, but please, if you have not followed the LinkedIn page for INBLF, follow it. It'll connect you with this whole network. And I think some better things will happen. And so you see the slug for INBLF right there. Here's just a review. This is for your company page. They call it a company page. Actually, now they call it a page, but this is for your law firm's page, not your personal profile. Okay. The company background image is has slightly different dimensions as opposed to the personal background image, but both of them require a square image, whether it's for the logo or for your personal portrait. Okay. So I want to say two things about settings and privacy. Okay. I don't want to go deep into this because it could take up 15 minutes. Number one, if your birth date is on your LinkedIn profile, remove it. Get rid of it. Nobody needs to know it. Your friends and family know it. It is one more data point that hackers now have so that they can try to get into whatever bank account you have or that sort of thing. It's just not worth it to have your birth date out there. And I say this every time I talk about this sort of thing. Where can you find your settings? When you go to LinkedIn, you just go to the main homepage, go to the upper right where it says me, and you'll see this drop down with settings and privacy, and just click on that. And the one other thing that I would like you all to do is in the visibility section, in the visibility menu, if you scroll down to this section that says share profile updates with your network, turn that off because we don't want you changing your headline or experimenting. A lot of this is experimenting. You fix a typo and all of a sudden your network has been notified that you've changed your profile. And it's just not worth it. Okay, so just turn that off. You can flip through some of the other settings and modify those as you see fit. Okay, so that's really it with optimizing your profile. And if I go back to this diagram, I think you can kind of see all of them come into play a little bit. It's a little bit of your expertise. It's, oh, I trust them because they haven't worked at 20 different firms in 10 years, that sort of thing. But primarily what we're trying to do is get this visibility portion really ramped up. Okay, so we're going to move on to sharing content. I'm trying to go at a good clip here in case you have questions at the end. As I said, my background is in publishing of different sorts. And so you hear this term content marketing, and I can't stand the term content. It just sort of cheapens everything that anybody does. But it's a word that's used, so we use it. And I woke up one morning a couple of years ago before I had coffee or anything, and I had this chart in my mind. I went up to the kitchen, got a pen, started scrawling it on a napkin. My wife starts talking to me, and I said, "Stop, stop. I gotta get this on paper." And so here it is. So we've all seen charts like this. What I'm looking at is content with two different values, okay? Long-term value on the x-axis and what I would call ephemeral or attention-grabbing value on the y-axis. So we all know if somebody gets a puppy and they share that on Facebook or wherever, Instagram, everybody loves it, right? I mean, it just high engagement. Everybody's going to click like. But is there really much value in it, especially in a business setting? Okay. Whereas when we are regularly blogging or posting about what I would call technical content, and that includes, an update to a regulation or a law or something like that, that kind of builds over time. And where the sweet spot is what I call storytelling, is if you can actually tell a story that includes some of the personalization, but it also has some of that fundamental technical know-how. So this is kind of how I view content, and I wanted to share it with you that not all content is equal. Not all content deserves the same amount of attention. Okay. So what types of content can we share on LinkedIn? You basically have posts. When you share a LinkedIn post, it's pretty much all you see on LinkedIn, or articles. Posts can have images. Those images can be of a puppy dog. They can be of infographics. LinkedIn also has something called image carousels, or what they call a document. And those are uploaded in PDF format. When you see images that look like a slideshow that you can either click through with your mouse, left to right, or on your smartphone, if you're just swiping your finger, you can go through this slideshow. Those are called an image carousel, and those are multi-page PDFs, okay? There's also videos and publications and presentations, and I'm going to go into all of these in a little bit more detail. So if we look at posts, when you go to the LinkedIn homepage, you're going to see at the very top, they're inviting you to start a post. LinkedIn wants everybody to be on LinkedIn all the time. I am not advocating that, okay? But they want you, they're encouraging people to post, okay? And from the get-go, they're basically saying, look, there are 3 types of posts. Well, there's actually more than that. Media basically means share an image of some sort, okay? But if you click in the start a post little area, what will pop up is this dialog box, okay? A year ago, rewrite with AI didn't exist, but now everybody's getting into this game. And then if you click on the plus button, you're going to see a bunch of different options. So, the one on the left, again, is the images. You've got jobs is there. For example, if you want to share an image carousel, some people will put, legal briefs up with analyses, and they'll share a PDF document, okay? That's where you do that. So, and one thing I failed to put in an arrow, you'll see at the bottom right, once you write out or put in content, the post button will come live and you can click post. You can also schedule a post. So if the muse hits you on a Tuesday evening and you write a post, you can schedule it to go out the next morning if you want. I use the scheduling feature, that little clock in the lower right, all the time. Okay, very, very helpful. So here's 2 examples of posts with images. Recently, we have one single image post from the San Francisco chapter. Again, we're trying to evoke a lot of things with an image. If you click see more, you're going to learn more about what was going on in that meeting. And then there's the multi-image ones. Robertson's in Hong Kong, they just do a fantastic job of sharing content like this. I'm a real fan of what they do. And these are just ways to, generally speaking, if you share a post with an image, you're going to get more reach, a greater audience for your content, okay? Here's an example of an image carousel or sharing what they call a document. It's a PDF. If you've seen some of these on the INBLF page, these are literally, we convert these into PDFs, and so people can you can tell a story over multiple pages, okay? There's also LinkedIn articles. I mentioned that at the beginning of this section. This is the first time if you would pull out your phone, and again, I'll get you these slides if you want them, but I've recorded a video explaining how to create a LinkedIn article. An article is a longer form content. They have you have the ability to create headings and numbered lists and add images and links and all that sort of thing. Here are a few different examples. I have a fairly long article about how to create a winning web page by analyzing the Wikipedia's William Shakespeare page. I go into detail, technical and visual detail about this. Larry has a wonderful recent article that is firmly in line with his brand. And then a friend of mine, Simon, in the UK, published a nice article as sort of a general glossary. So this is a great way to take some information from, say, your website and repurpose it onto LinkedIn. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. So there are 2 words that are often used, and I want to explain what these are: reach and engagement, and they go hand in hand. Reach is basically eyeballs. It's your audience. How far does, or how large can the audience grow for a particular post, something that you share, okay? How does, and this leads to, what is the algorithm? What is an algorithm? An algorithm is nothing more than a software program that says this is what we want to do. And LinkedIn's problem is, how do they value content and how do they determine what is better content than other content, okay? It Doesn't always work as far as I'm concerned. I am not here to be the big cheerleader of LinkedIn. LinkedIn just exists, okay? I get very frustrated at LinkedIn's algorithm at times, but the algorithm likes engagement. And engagement comes in three basic forms: when people like your post, when they share your post, and when they comment on it. Okay. When there's activity. LinkedIn loves it because people stay on it longer and they can charge more for advertising. Okay. Let's just call it like it is. But when those things happen, the reach grows. They will then display your post to more and more people. Generally, I like posting in the middle of the work week, but I post on Mondays and Fridays. I post on Saturdays and Sundays. My job as a marketer is to experiment with things, to try to break things, to try to figure out what fails. Okay. And there are absolutely people who love going on to LinkedIn on Saturday mornings. Okay. So, and the other thing is, if everybody is sharing Tuesday through Thursday, it means there is less competition on Mondays and Fridays. So my advice is just experiment. Okay. Just get out there and do it. Tagging others, it can be a very good thing. So, for example, uh, referencing Larry Ebner, if I wanted to tag him, I would just type at and then his slug, Larry-Ebner. You can forward these. I encourage people to forward posts to individuals, whether it's through text messaging, email, or even through the LinkedIn messaging platform. When you post something, the first couple hours are the most important. You really want people to engage in those first 2 or 3 hours. That will kind of light up the algorithm. It's kind of unfair, nobody's sitting there waiting to go onto LinkedIn every morning, but it's the way it is. They have to create some kind of an algorithm. My advice to you is, if you post something and people comment on it, reply to those as fast as you can and click like. Okay. That feeds the algorithm. Okay. External links. Oftentimes you'll see people putting external links in the comments. Why? Because if you are LinkedIn, you don't want anybody leaving their platform. What LinkedIn is trying to do is get as much of the dialogue and interaction on LinkedIn. And so if you share an external link, which has to be done, okay, just know that, it's not necessarily going to juice the algorithm, as some people call it, okay? And then the final thing is open well. I mean, most attorneys are writers and, maybe not marketing writers, but it's a challenge. And I've got some examples here of how you can open well. First, you can make a bold statement. My friend Simon, not all social media managers are created equal. I love that. As a marketer, I love that he came out and just said it. And you better believe me, I clicked see more when I saw this. Okay. Um, Gratitude. Gratitude is, there's not enough of it online. Okay. Keeping it positive and never being negative is one of my rules. Okay. And so there was a sickness in his firm, and he was publishing about this. Another one, ask questions. This goes back to my magazine publishing days, and I simply asked a question: which is the more engaging photo? And people answer the question. They don't always. Sometimes it doesn't work, but that's one method. Another one is tease the answer. I basically answered my own question, what I call better participation in this particular quote. But then I explained myself later on. Okay. And then another method, just quote somebody. It doesn't need to be you. In this one, I quoted Warren Buffett and managed to fit Don Draper and the Mr. and Mrs. Bennett from Pride and Prejudice in there. So again, I like to experiment. All right. Personalization, really, really key. I'm going back to Miriam. Her new website has this absolutely wonderful page about her commitment to open water swimming, which she knows I'm in awe of this. Okay. And I think most people are. And not many people have an absolutely cool image of them scuba diving with huge turtles. So, don't be afraid to do this. People like to see this sort of thing. It's more interesting than kittens. Okay. Although I have nothing against kittens. So that's content, okay? And if we look at this, what is content about? And I think while it does have to do with all of these components, it's really an area where you can display your expertise, okay? It's a unique opportunity. Um, let's see here. I think there is a chat. I just want to see. Um, talked about, there's a question here. On the last slide, when you talked about external links, is linking content from your firm website frowned upon? I guess what that really means is linking to your firm website. My short answer is that LinkedIn frowns upon any link that goes from their website, LinkedIn, to any other website, and that includes your law firm. I don't like that, but the fact of the matter is LinkedIn was purchased by Microsoft about 8 years ago, 9 years ago, something like that, for over $26 billion. And the Microsoft shareholders want a return on their investment. And it's not by being a clearinghouse for all of our websites. It's just the way it is. So I would say there's a balance. What I increasingly try to do is to get firms to take their content, for example, blog content, and put it in forms that are digestible on LinkedIn. You'll be amazed at how you can convert a blog post into a slideshow or an image carousel or a numbered list or something like that, and increase dialogue solely within LinkedIn. Okay. One technique is to actually put a link to the blog in the content comments. You can create maybe two posts. What you do want people is coming back to you. This is sort of a long game, and they're not necessarily just going to hire you because they went to your website. Okay, so it's a balancing act. Um, Absolutely, you should link to your website, but not all the time. Okay, is kind of my general rule. Okay, let's go to the third section, which is engagement. Okay, I'm going to take a sip of water while you read some of these quotes. So you can kind of tell the gist of these quotes is very much interactive. The quote on the top right and the quote on the bottom left are from Adam Grant's book, Give and Take. He's a professor at the University of Pennsylvania. If you haven't read this book, I highly recommend you do it or get the audiobook, Give and Take, Adam Grant. He does not state that everybody who is a giver is successful, but if you are a giver in certain ways, you can be very, very, very successful. Okay. And that's something I would like to accentuate with this whole idea of engagement on social media channels. I look at LinkedIn as there are two nouns or two protagonists. There is me, okay, and then there's everybody else as sort of a collective noun or pronoun, right? But there are an unlimited number of verbs that connect all of us. And those are all the different types of interactions that can go on. If you're over 50, I'm in that group. You were raised to think that the world was a broadcast world. Okay. I think everybody assumed after they got out of college that it would be a good 20 years before they would be able to speak, present, write. You put your head down and you went to work, and at a certain point, you were an expert. Whereas now, people who are 12 years old are experts because they all have a platform. The world has completely changed. Okay. So LinkedIn is not a broadcast platform. It is social media, and it works the more we are social. When you share something, you are absolutely not guaranteed that the audience will be there. Okay. We have to kind of work at it in a different way. I don't like it. It's just the way it is. Okay. So for example, if we go back to Miriam's open water swimming web page, which just Google that. You should be able to find it. It's a fantastic page. You'll see, well, you can't really see it here, but she shared an image of this, but she did share a link to it. And there are different ways to engage. I mean, the easiest one is to click like, love, support, congratulations, or different, emojis that they put here. Another one is to comment. Commenting, if you just say thanks or congratulations, that is a low value comment. But when somebody comes in and really writes something meaningful, that is a high value comment, okay? And LinkedIn will recognize that, partly, I think, just through word count. But this is one of the reasons I like to say, if you share content, don't tell the whole story. If you know there are 6 things people need to know, tell them 4. Because some people, including in your own law firm, may want to comment and say, well, here's something else that you can add to it. So you can kind of game the system, if you will. Okay. The other thing is there's a lot of invisible engagement that goes on that we never know about. Nobody knows. Well, in this case, Miriam will not know who sent this post privately through messages. Okay. I don't know, it's called the invisible web or something like that. Okay. There's another part here that I want to highlight, which is the repost button. Okay. And there are 2 ways to repost. The lower one, you've probably seen this. If you repost a post, okay, what this will do is take that original post and share it with your network, or at least part of your network. Okay. And the likes and interactions that happen on that post will happen to the original post. However, when you repost it with your own thoughts, which can be a very good thing, because sometimes you want to display your own expertise and mastery of a topic, LinkedIn creates a brand new post. In web development terms, you could call that a new object or a new instance. I'm not going to get into software programming, but just want you to know there is value for both of those, but they do slightly different things. One creates a brand new post, one promotes the existing post. Okay. So engagement. Engagement basically consists of liking, commenting, and sharing. Okay. It is the thing that people do least online, as far as I'm concerned, because this idea that either I can be a passive participant or I should share my original content. And that middle ground of liking, commenting, sharing, people don't do enough of it. And what I really want you to remember is when you comment, you are creating content. Okay. And I think commenting, I mean, I started commenting years ago when the commenting was actually on websites and not on social media. And it helped me find my voice. And I encourage people to do this. If a colleague is writing about a topic, you can add something to that and sort of practice at this a little bit. Content, as much as I don't like the term, it's the analogies I use. If I'm going to cook something, prepare a meal, I need ingredients. If I want to construct something, I need raw materials. It's also like fuel. It just keeps the train going. Okay. So engagement is really, really important. Part of engagement is these dreaded notifications. If you have 50 notifications, a little red dot that says 50 or 20 or 25 or whatever it is, my recommendation is try to wipe out those notifications on a regular basis. I'm not saying you have to do this every day or even multiple times a day. But when I click on my notifications, a lot of it is what I might just call noise. Okay. But somebody may have commented on something you post, or somebody may have shared something, like a client may have shared something that's an opportunity for you to just simply click like. Somebody participated in a charitable activity. When you post something and somebody actually clicks like, you appreciate it. And so what I just want to say is turn that around. Okay. Here's one way I do this. I'm a huge fan of the LinkedIn app. When I'm waiting in line for 3 minutes, I pull out my phone and I go to LinkedIn and I just start looking. And in 2 minutes, I can get a lot of engagement, interacting, following done. Okay. Um, but on the other hand, I will tell you this. I turned off notifications for, when you're on your phone and you have your app and there's that little dreaded red dot there. I turned my external notifications off. I only see my notifications if and when I open up my app, because there's a limit I have in my personal life to this stuff. So you can choose to do this in a certain way, but I just want you to sort of use notifications to your best advantage. Okay. And those are my recommendations. This is something I could have shared up in the profile, your optimize your profile section. Publications is a section on your personal profile, and I have a video on how to do this. There'll be a QR code later on. But publications is a word, a term that LinkedIn uses for all presentations. So if you did a webinar like this one, or if you did a panel discussion online or at an event, that is technically a publication. And one of the things you can do is add these to your profile, and it's really great in terms of sort of keywords and displaying your expertise, where you can say, here's the title of, say, a panel discussion I was on, and here's a description of it. What's really cool about this is where engagement comes in, is if you're in a panel with 3 other attorneys, you can tag those attorneys when you create this publication. They will get a notification that you created this, and all they need to do is click accept, and now that is added to their profile. So they're looking at you and thinking, thanks, Jane. I mean, this was great. You did all the work for me. Okay. Tiny little bit of engagement, of you're kind of doing a good deed for somebody else. Okay. So engagement, a big part of that is, who are you engaging with? And so while I could have put this part first, but I'm putting it more toward the end, is my first suggestion is assume that you are not connected with everybody you should be connected with. That includes colleagues, current colleagues, past colleagues, people you went to school with, friends, especially INBLF members. Connect with them. When you go to their profile, you'll find a connect button, and go ahead and click connect. I want to state that I highly recommend, when you connect with people, to do it on your laptop or desktop, not on the app, okay? Because when you do this through their regular website, not their app, you can add a personal note to your invitation. The invitation is to connect. This is where, I mean, I get countless people, and I'm sure you're the same, countless people trying to quote unquote connect with me. And I know all they want to do is sell me something immediately. Okay. And I don't participate in any of that garbage. It is garbage as far as I'm concerned. Okay. Don't be that way. When you connect with, say, a fellow INBLF member or something, send a quick note. Hey, I saw your profile. I'd love to connect here. Hope all is well. Doesn't need to be really deep, okay? Or I notice you're an INBLF member, we're in different countries and I'd like to connect with you, okay? Personalize it. The more we're human, the better everything is going to be. In addition to connecting, you can follow. I follow a lot of people who say know more about SEO than I do, or know more about software development than I do. And by following people, it's not a full connection. You're going to see what they share and you're going to learn from it. This can be something you do with prospective clients, with prospective, what I call peers. Peers to me are just all those people who might help you get clients in the future. And that includes following people and pages, company pages, law firm web pages, that sort of thing. Normally, you can find the follow button. There's a more link, and you will find the follow button in a menu that appears if you click the more link. You can actually interchange. You can display your follow button on your profile instead of your connect button. But anyway, I want you to know the distinction between the connect button and the follow button, and they both have a unique value. You could follow somebody for a month or 3 months or 2 years and then connect with them later, after you've interacted with them. The point here is please think of this as any other form of life, which is it's playing the long game. There are no magic tricks. It doesn't work. Life doesn't work that way. We all know it. Sometimes does a client drop in our laps? It happens, right? But it doesn't happen all the time. Okay. Okay. So here is something, if you want to take a look at this video, I recorded a video on how to create a customized LinkedIn feed. Depending on who you are following and who you are connected with, and also who is advertising, because there are a lot of advertisements, meaning posts that are promoted on LinkedIn, that's going to be your feed. And so the feed, if you go scrolling through it, is not really always very enjoyable, shall we put it that way. But you can actually create customized feeds where you can say, I want to follow, the automotive industrial groups in, the Midwest, and I'm going to create a feed just for the people who work in that area, or, whatever else it might be. You could create a feed of INBLF members in your chapter, or INBLF members in a particular country or region, that sort of thing. So it's all there in this short video. Basically, you create the feed and then you create a bookmark, and then you can go to that and really optimize your time spent following and paying attention and interacting with other people. Okay. So how do you add certain sections to your profile? At the very beginning, I mentioned this featured section and the publications section. Okay. These are not typically default sections on your profile. Okay. I create another video for this. I highly recommend having a featured section and also the publications. And those are the two sections that I'm recommending that you have. And that's why I did this. Basically, if you see on these images, if you click the add profile section button, you're going to get some drop down lists. And I show you how to do that. Let me take a look at these. Yeah, there's a question about premium. I'm going to handle that later. How do you find all of INBLF members on LinkedIn? I'm gonna get to both of those. So thank you for those. So let's go through to the next one. So basically we have engagement, and let's go back to our Venn diagram. In my mind, the engagement is where the trust really builds. Yes, you get more visibility. Yes, you can display your expertise. But when people see that you're a civil, normal person, that counts for a lot. And you can actually build trust just with little by little interactions online. Okay. So some wrap up thoughts with this. Look, it's the long game. Please don't expect magic. I think we all know none of this digital stuff is magic. It's just software programs that try to do certain things. And let's take all the old school principles that we all know have worked for like decades and hundreds of years and thousands of years and apply them to the digital area. Incremental progress is really important. When I say in this third bullet behind the link, again, that's the link people find when they Google you. And when they click on that LinkedIn link, we want them to see you, not a part of you, right? The algorithm is always changing. I think if you focus on human to human activity, being human to other people, that shows up. Okay. Part of that is what I call the silent majority. I mean, a long time ago, that was a political term in the United States. Time and time again, and I know this happens to other people, I will go, I'll be at a lunch, I'll be at an event, and somebody will say, Nick, I love what you share on LinkedIn. And I look at them and I think, gee, I didn't even know you ever saw anything I said on LinkedIn. I don't see you like it. I don't see you comment. There are a lot of people who just read it, or look at it. Okay. But it's there and you don't always have evidence. Okay. And like I said at the beginning, like this is just one tool. Okay. So INBLF, let's talk about particular opportunities. again, likes, shares, comments, drive reach. You can find your fellow INBLF attorneys. There's no simple way to do this because they will not show everybody who's following the INBLF page. Okay. What I would suggest is go into, first of all, follow the INBLF page. And then when you see people engaging on there with liking or commenting, click on them, click on their profile and link in with them. Okay. I mean, I think this is the best way to do it. And it will grow organically. Okay. And it'll grow the INBLF network and it'll grow your network. Okay. Tag others. You saw in this San Francisco post, there were a bunch of people tagged. If these people don't respond, the post won't perform very well. Okay. That's the downside of tagging. Okay. Try new things. That INBLF Prague event was amazing. I mean, it looked amazing in person, but online, the amount of content people shared on LinkedIn was amazing. One of the things I love about Nancy Marzullo in the DC chapter was she actually posted about it on her website's blog and then shared that on LinkedIn. So there's kind of countless ways to kind of keep spreading the word and have the INBLF network which is very unique, to actually have this worldwide collection of people interacting with each other and boosting each other's practices. The last thing, how can you collaborate? Can you get 2 or 3 attorneys together to collaborate on something? FAQs, Q&As about our topic are pretty easy to write. You can post those, you can create articles, you can create blogs on your website. When there are multiple authors, the reach tends to go up simply because of the network effect. So I'd like you to think about how you might be able to do that with other people in your chapter or across chapters, across countries and continents. Okay. So a wrap up, and I will go to the premium question. Remember, LinkedIn's only a part of the whole ecosystem. It's connected to it, but it's part of it. Keep in mind the marketing funnel. Okay. There is activity all up and down that marketing funnel, whether you're liking or commenting or sharing or posting or anything like that. And then keep in mind these 3 things. You're often working on all 3 of these things at once, or at least 2 of them. Okay. Premium. There's a question about, is premium worth it? I mean, you can spend $50 a month, $100 a month. Here's my general thought. I am trying to get people to do the 20% that gets them the 80% of the value. You don't need premium to do that 20%. You need to start doing some of the things that I was outlining here. The paying for it, I don't think is going to necessarily get you the value. I actually have premium because I have to tinker with this. There's a way of monitoring people and all this sort of thing, creating lists and things like that. But that's my job as a marketer to know this. But my advice is, I'd rather you spend time and effort on this rather than cold hard cash on it. Okay. If you get to the point where you're a total power user and you want to then start paying for it, then go right ahead. And then I think I just want to go back to can we find out, how do you find all the INBLF members on LinkedIn? It's hard. LinkedIn is not opening up all of the members. I would say interact with the INBLF page. It's possible that you can't even download the people who are following it. LinkedIn is making that very, very difficult. LinkedIn has made LinkedIn to be a peer-to-peer, person-to-person network and not a page-to-person network. They've improved on that, but there's no simple answers. So any more questions? I really want to respect the time. I think we're just up on an hour.
Any questions from anyone? Well, if you have questions, you're more than welcome to email me. And oh, Lonnie has a question. Is there a value to purging your connections network, Nick?
Purging your connections?
Yes, I'm assuming they're referring to sort of weeding out connections.
Yeah, I guess that depends on who's in the network. The short answer is yes. If you have been agreeing to connect with people who really don't have value. I mean, for years now, I have just been ignoring requests. I get them every morning. I wake up and there are people, software developers, SEO experts, all kinds of things, and you get your own versions. There is a limit to the amount of people in everybody's network. I think that's 30,000. I don't think many people achieve that, but what I would say is if you're trying to improve your feed, that maybe purging some people who have nothing to do with you would be the right way to do it. To be honest, I haven't really looked into that. There's got to be a method to unconnect, but I don't think it's going to hurt you. What I would say is if you do it incrementally. These are all software programs, and the minute they start seeing heated activity, they start thinking there's a bot or you've been hacked or something like that. So just kind of do it gradually and, see whether things improve. Okay.
Thanks so much.
Sure.
Any other questions before we wrap up?
I'll just throw in, Nick, this was a fabulous presentation, and I think posting it on the network, Annabelle will inform the membership. Obviously, there's a limit to time and effort of people participating, but it'll be a really valuable asset on the website. And I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks. And thanks to everybody who attended, all of our new members joining, and all of our other old favorites. Yes, this will go on the website and our YouTube channel. If you have questions, let me know. Our next presentation is on the 27th of February, if I'm getting that right. One of our Canadian chapter firms is going to do a really great presentation on some of their work. I'll circulate that. And yeah, in the meantime, if you have questions, let us know. And we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks to everybody for joining.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to talk.
Of course. All right. Thanks, everybody. Speak soon.
Bye.
Thank you.